I'd like to call the Community Diversity Engagement Committee meeting to order. It's 6 o'clock. Meeting started. Is that what I do? All right. So first we'll go approve. Oh, do we have to call roll? Yes, please.
We're being recorded, and
Okay.
so that's
Yep.
good to get
Please.
done.
Yep. I can call it too.
Okay, Kim McKins,
Here.
Stephanie Cross,
Here.
Carrie Brown. You can say absent.
Absent.
Jill Gus.
Right now.
Okay, Carrie Brown is here. Jill Gus.
Here.
Tyus Roddick.
Here.
Benita Picasso.
Here.
Thank you. Nevaeh Music.
Absent.
And Laura Reed.
Here.
Thank you.
And Council Star is absent, excused, correct? Awesome, thank you. So I'd like to call, review the minutes from last month, January 4th. See if anyone had any questions, comments.
I approve the minutes as written.
Do I get a second?
I'll second.
Okay. So Tammy, you call the roll? Tammy motioned, Jill second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Oh, okay. Minutes have passed. We're going to go into appearance of interested citizens. No? Okay. So we're always going to have these two front, just so that we can take care of business and respect folks' times if they come and visit. So that's why the order is that way. So now we'd like to go item number 4, which is for our new member, Jill, to introduce herself.
My name is Jill Gust. I work for the Keizer Chamber of Commerce. I've lived in Keizer my entire life. I've raised 3 kids here, graduated from high school here. I serve on many committees, including the McNary Athletic Board. I also am the secretary for the Keizer Fire Foundation, and I'm on the McNary Youth Football Board. My goal in this committee is just to help make a difference, always continue to make Keizer first, make it move forward, and just be a positive influence.
Great. Welcome. We love having you.
Welcome. Yeah, welcome.
Okay. Man, we're breezing right along. Community reports, Tammy.
Everything is in your packets. I got it to Dawn in time for everybody to read.
You want to make any specific comments or any notes that you want to call out?
I did receive a lot of feedback on our work session with traffic and on our strategic plan. I did include all of that in my notes. The biggest barrier that people are talking about is the language, but I think that we have enough staff now that can help translate that. So hopefully people will start utilizing that resource and get that need met for themselves. If not, then we can step in as needed.
So what I'd like to call out, which I really loved from the report, is I was reading it at the same time as I was reviewing again the strategic plan. And there's a lot of synergy, right? Because the strategic plan is talking about us creating materials and engaging and communication. And your report is saying that it's really much needed for us to have something printed, right? That electronic isn't always the easiest, and in various language, which also the strategic plan called for. So I think he was, very supporting that. Yes, that is one of the things that we should work on and focus on.
Yeah, one of the other things is that people with the new website are having a hard time accessing information. So I've tried walking them through that, but I am not the greatest with technology. So if we can maybe address that a little bit and try and make it a little bit easier for folks to access, that would be a huge help.
Yes.
Thank you. I would like to know more specifically what is difficult, because we're spending actually a lot of money to a contractor to get this good, And, the fact that, it seems to be harder than the old one is concerning, but just saying it's hard to navigate is not very helpful.
They're
if we could
having
look
a
for-
hard time accessing minutes for meetings, the agenda for meetings, being able to access it from the old one compared to the new one is quite different. It's not as easy for people of older ages who are not technology savvy. Even some of the kids that are trying to help their families access it are having a hard time with that part. So it's really just the accessibility of typing in city council meeting and minutes
Okay.
or that kind of thing.
Follow up? So, Tim, can you tell us a little bit about the process of how this is going in terms of the revamp for the webpage? Is it done? Is it in progress still? Can you help us understand that a little more?
At this point, we just got a refresher of the front page. And from there, each of the departments are going back and reviewing their individual web pages to make sure that nothing broke because of that upgrade. We were on a very old back end for the website, and the contractor that we've used has for many years been pestering me to upgrade, and we've been kind of holding off until we're kind of hoping that through the strategic planning process we're going to get some new branding, that kind of a thing, to do a full revamp after that. It looks like the strategic plan process is going to take a while. So having said that, we moved ahead with refreshing the front page. The contractor is also looking at some of the small things we can do to fix some of the back end. So to answer your question, we're on the very front end of a revamp project. We do have a committee established of about 4 or 5 employees that are working on trying to decide whether we stick with the current vendor or whether we move on to a new vendor. And then along with that, what kind of features do we want to have and make sure that we have, whether we do stay or we move on.
Could we prioritize access to meeting packets and so forth? Because that is.
Is there an easier way to access it
Well-
for people who aren't familiar to our?
And part of it is they need to have signed up for them to get easy access. Is that correct?
Well, I'm just looking at the website now, and it's basically 2 clicks to get to a meeting agenda. So I guess I would have to sit down with some of the folks specifically to figure out where
Why that's
the
not
disconnect kind of is.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, on the homepage, we have a tab for meeting materials.
Would that be a possibility, Tim, to have maybe a user case, dedicate a few minutes from your time and have some of the folks that Tammy spoke to or consolidated?
Maybe just do like a quick webinar to say this is how you access such and such. Might be the easiest way to go about it.
Sure, yeah, we're definitely open.
There's also a purple button down there.
Yeah, but looks like there's two ways just from the front page within 2 clicks to get to the meeting.
Yeah.
me.
That's,
I
and that's
will-
been my experience, and so that's why I'm a little confused as to why this is harder.
Yeah, I'm not actually there with them when they're trying to access it, but I can make myself available for that to see where the disconnect is.
The other piece as well is maybe when the documents come up, if they do on PDF, maybe make it on larger font from the get-go and have folks adjust down if they need to, but just for ease of readability.
Good suggestion.
Because anytime we hear these concerns, I would like to be able to probe deeper to say, okay, well, what are some of your suggestions? Because concerns without suggestions aren't always as addressed as easily as,
Right.
because we can't read minds is kind of the bottom line. So if we're kind of making it the easiest we can and people still aren't getting it, there's that disconnect there to be able to say, okay, well, what would you suggest then? So that might be helpful.
I have a question. Are the PDFs only like through Adobe? So that might be where part of the disconnect is. Not everybody necessarily has Adobe on their computers unless they have a newer one or they pay for it. So that might be part of the problem, maybe? I don't know. I'm just saying.
I'm definitely very willing to sit with anyone who wants to look through our webpage.
So maybe we can facilitate that? Do you think you can ask some folks maybe to come down or just schedule a few minutes and
Yeah, I
walk
can
through? I think that's also good,
outreach.
good, so this is unsolicited, right? Sometimes you have to pay for focus group, you're getting focus group for free, so that may not be a bad idea as we roll off more and more of these upgrades, so.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
So can I have that as an action item for you two to connect and,
Sure.
okay, awesome, thank you. Any other comments or questions for Tammy from her report? Okay, moving on to the observance recognition assignments. Just want to make sure everyone is on the same page. We got an updated one from Dawn. I have the next one, which is Black History Month, which we're starting today. And we have scheduled either the 5th or the 20th, and I have requested, so I've sent a note to the Salem Keizer NAACP and asked them if they would be interested. They are having a meeting this week and will get back to me to come present either on the 5th or the 20th. I don't know if they will, but that's kind of what's holding, if I come on the 5th or the 20th, I'd like, if they're able to join, to hold that space for them, so, yes.
If you can make sure and coordinate that with the mayor, because I know I'm
Yes.
pretty sure she's doing a proclamation on
Yes.
the.
On the 5th?
On the 5th, but, and it doesn't have to, just coordinate with the mayor so she knows when to expect that.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you. And that kind of goes for all of these recognition things, because we don't want, we want to be able to just coordinate and make sure that we have all our ducks in a row.
Yep. So I'll plan on being there on the 5th either way, and then if they are able to join on the 20th, they'll join on the 20th. They're able to join on the 5th, then they can join on the 5th.
So I have a question being somewhat new.
Yeah.
What exactly do we have to do for these things?
Great question, because I didn't know either until we did one. Carrie, do you want to take that on since you are the expert in presenting in this committee?
Okay, so for myself, I have done a couple of presentations, one for Asian Pacific Heritage Month and one for Hispanic Heritage Month. And I choose to use part of my personal history and add that to a specific topic for that particular month. And so for 2023, for Asian Pacific Heritage Month, I chose to talk about the history of the Chinese in Oregon. And I also added parts of my own history, because I like to do that, I like to share both, I like to use that time to educate the people, that I'm presenting to. And then for Hispanic, National Hispanic Heritage Month, I did the same thing. I chose to share part of my personal Hispanic history, and also a little bit about the ethnic heritage of that particular culture. And so I think that for this year, I will do something similar, but choose a different topic, because I like to educate the community about things that they have not seen or heard about. So that's my approach.
Okay. And how long do these?
5 minutes. We've
5
got 5
minutes.
minutes. So, and there is a nice, I hadn't noticed this, Dawn, so I need to give you a shout out. There's a nice little kind of summary of some of what the months are and kind of what they're providing. I'm planning, and I haven't put it all together, but I'm planning, oops, sorry about that, for Black History Month to bring a little bit about the history of Oregon and exclusionary laws for a lot of African Americans and kind of why we have the percentage of African Americans that we have in the state, very low, about 2% or lower. So why that is, a little bit more about the history and educating piece. So I think that's the part that I think it's moving forward is why do we have certain things and kind of bring that awareness, because a lot of the folks may not know or be aware of it. So, and I don't know if this is going to be successful or not, but if there are opportunities to bring other organizations to co-present with us, I think that's always really good also to bring awareness, right? So for Black History Month, the two ones that I looked at were, there is an organization called Oregon Black Pioneers, and they're the ones that did a really, really great OPB special that talks about the history of African Americans in Oregon. And then the Salem NAACP, they were the two that kind of were, that jumped to mind. But I'm sure there, with every month, there are lots and lots and lots that we, even for the Women's History Month, maybe we can work with some of our Keizer women, organizations and see if they want to come present with us. So again, bring that awareness.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, if you need some help, I'm sure that, we'd be glad to assist you.
Thank you.
Any questions on the assignments? Kind of learning as we're going a little bit, changing things up, but we got this. Okay, so we're moving on to spotlight of practical applications of diversity, engagement, and inclusion. And I don't know if this is, and maybe I'm going off script, but maybe can we talk about the strategic plan here, or do we want to talk about the strategic plan on new business? Because I think there's a lot that we are supposed to do and want to do with the plan, so.
No, you're more than welcome to talk about the strategic plan now if you so choose.
Would that be okay? Okay. Did you get any comments or any notes from us that you want to bring up?
No, we took all your comments from the last meeting, so we're working and consolidating those with the rest of the ones that we've received. From what I've understand, talking with the consultants, I think we're up to about 170 or so responses.
Great.
Wide range of comments. So it's going to take us quite a while to process through those.
Okay. Yes,
And furthermore,
Councilor Reed.
we're thinking to take this bit by bit a little bit more so we can be a little bit more thorough. So we're sort of opting for the thorough. I mean, it was thorough before, but not to a lot of people's satisfaction. So, so it's going to be a process, and people will have opportunity to give input. But you don't get whining rights if you don't participate.
Yeah, I was going to say, and I'm fully guilty of it, I hadn't read the entire thing from top to bottom, so now you see lots of little Post-it notes. I know we talked in the last meeting about bringing things here to the committee, and I hadn't read that the way these, and correct me please, Tim, but the way this is going is each action is going to have a lead from the city. That's the lead point person for that specific action, and it's one of their things, one of their scope of work, engaging and updating the council, city organization, and community as needed. So we will be hopefully updated or consulted, because I know that was one of the things that Councilor Starr had requested from the last meeting, and it is under plan implementation, if you go bullet by bullet, kind of about the process. So that wasn't clear to me before, and now I think this is now clear. Can I ask, how are the other committees prioritizing the work? Has it come to that point yet?
We are not really at the prioritization stage yet. As Councilor Reed was indicating, we're kind of slowing down a little bit, taking a breath. We want to go back and review the mission statement, vision, values first, make sure that the council is in agreement with that before we press forward. So some of the action plans may change depending on how folks feel and ultimately land on the mission, vision, values, and then the 6 different bullet items. So some of that may change, although we don't want to throw out a lot of the work that some of the staff has already done. So realistically, probably what's going to happen is when the time comes, if the action items still remain as they are, we will internally as city staff say, okay, what do we think we can realistically do? Then we'll come back and present that to you folks and say, hey, this is kind of what we're thinking. are we missing something? Give us your feedback as far as the priorities of what we can actually think we can do in the next 3 to 5 years. So we'll be using you folks a lot more in an advisory kind of thing. So that'll take some of the pressure off of all of you, so you won't have to do the jigsaw puzzle of, well, do we have funding for this or not, the kind of a thing.
Thank you.
I think one of the things that really stood up for me, and I think I was contemplating on talking about it, is the mission, vision, and values. As I was reading them out loud, I appreciate how we are trying to say we want Keizer to be a place for all. But I do feel like we want to, or for me, I think a word that needs to be spelled or said out loud would be inclusion, because we want, I almost feel like we are being shy on saying anything that it is outside of the norm. You know what I mean? We're being very cautious about the language that we use, and I'm okay with that. I just think we need to be inclusive, adding inclusive, meaning all, no matter where you're coming from, what you prefer, background, you are welcome. You will be inclusive into the community, and I think that's part of one word that I haven't seen anywhere in mission, vision, values.
Great input. So knowing that we have item 4, goal 4, engage community, what's the ask of us? I know you're going to source, right, and figure it out which ones we source, which ones we don't. One of the things that stood out for me as I read through again is there are a lot of things in the other places that talk about, and this is just an ask, but again, that talks about engagement or engaging community survey engagement pieces. I think whenever that word comes up, that we should be considered because that's part of our name. So that in and of itself can be something that we can tackle on. So even if it isn't a number 4, could be under number 6, number 5. There's an engagement piece. Any other questions, comments on the practical applications? We are bringing an update. We're bringing inclusive language to the meeting on the 5th. No?
May I?
Yes, please, Councilor Reed.
Okay, so that was the initial plan. However, upon further reflection, we would like to get more versions of this. Because this that Stephanie, you brought this, right? This is fantastic, but there's a lot of, any kind of DEI training comes with a lot of pushback, and and people from the state, for instance, are constantly saying, here, do this, you have to do this now. Whereas it would be more helpful to have a variety of these things, these kinds of handouts to be able to say, okay, here, be aware of what certain language means to certain people, and instead of having just one, and this is fantastic, I'm not meaning to denigrate this at all, but it would be nice to be able to have multiple of these. And also, it is important to contextualize this a little bit more, which is why we are we're going to be holding a joint session, a joint work session with this committee and the city council to kind of help the city council understand where this is coming from, because we want to be able to set this up for success. Because right now, people may see this and just say, oh, that's, the old term was politically correct, but, to be able to say, okay, there is reason for this. Language matters, and this is what certain things mean to certain people. And just kind of doing this out of context may be misunderstood and may not be setting it up for success as much as we would like.
Okay.
So, Tim, what is the date on that?
March 11th, I think, is what Dawn just mentioned. And we have a meeting on March 7th, so we have the option, and we're gonna take a vote on this. Either we hold 2 meetings, one on March 7th which is our regular meeting, and one on March 11th, or we combine both meetings. So we just have one on March 11th with the council. Because again, when we get together, we have quorum, and so that's the piece that we need to record, we need all of it, so.
I would personally like us to do both. That way we can have our meeting on the 7th to get everything in place for the meeting on the 11th.
Like,
Yes,
like what?
For our topics that we may want to cover for
We are
whatever-
not setting that agenda. The mayor will be setting that agenda. We can be, I'm sorry, and I interrupted you. I apologize. Finish, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Okay, so what this meeting is going to be about is it's going to have a lot to do with Tim's report that he gave us in January or December.
I think it was January. I'll have to look back.
Yeah, you remember when he did the slideshow to be able to say, okay, this is what progress we've made throughout this year, and to be able to compare it against what the city council has asked of us, which is in our book here, in terms of the ordinance itself.
the resolution.
The resolution, sorry, yes, the resolution itself, and then the list of purpose and tasks that the city council has given us. So it's a chance for us to kind of report on those things,
Okay,
and then report, you know, and Tim's report I'm seeing as being integral in that as well. So, Tammy, what were you thinking that we would need to be prepared for with that?
I would just prefer to have our regular meeting and then our joint meeting.
maybe we can,
And cover whatever it is that's going to be on the agenda.
maybe we can use that meeting on the 7th, if I'm reading it correctly, to prepare for what we want to present for our accomplishments with the resolution, because we're going to compare what we've done versus what the resolution has asked us to do, right? Isn't that part of the conversation on the 11th? So maybe we can outline it and have it.
Yes,
Solidify.
that would be great.
Okay. So I'm hearing 1 for 2 meetings. Others that are in favor of that? I'm going to say aye, so there's 2.
Aye.
3?
Wait, well, we need to put a motion on.
Oh,
the
I'm
table.
sorry.
Okay,
If
I
you're-
make a motion that do I do the motion or just?
I don't even know if we need a motion to continue as we've always have. I mean, if
Oh, but there's an
if there's
additional
no
meeting.
interest in canceling the meeting, then we don't need a motion, I wouldn't think.
Okay. Anyone that makes a motion to cancel the meeting and just have one? No. Okay. I'll bring treats. Okay, we're having 2, and if we need to cut it short, I'm not going to be ceremonious. We're going to cut it short if we need to, but
Okay, and I'll see if we can get, you know, some kind of clear agenda from the mayor at that point.
and if not, it's just a good opportunity to get together. So if we need to be a bit more impromptu, we will. But if we know at least that we are going to present what we have accomplished and some of the things that we're working on, so that we can get clarity of scope and are we overstepping, are we not? Is this within our, scope of work? So, yeah, okay, great. See, we took care of that business, Dawn, without even too bad. Okay. Any new business? Yes,
if I could.
Counselor Reed.
I don't think I quite finished this thought as far as these, if other people have these resources on inclusive language, please bring them.
Yes.
And that would be for next month.
Perfect.
So, so that would be,
So that's an action item for us.
yes, so that would be an action item for this
Should we
committee.
send that to Dawn so that she already has a copy of what we
Yes, I
need?
would think that would be great. So just more things.
I think mine is printed. I can bring Dawn a copy of it.
And there could be, there can be overlaps and different things, but just different kinds of things like that from
Examples, yeah.
different organizations,
I have
so.
a great one I'll bring from OHSU, because in the medical field, they have a lot of that they have to use with non-stigmatizing language, so. Yes, Tim?
I might add, similar to what you just said with OHSU, if there's groups that we know that have used this or presented it, different agencies or cities or whatnot, that would be good to know as well. And that would add a little bit of credibility to say, oh, hey, OHSU used this as part of this, to put it more into a little bit of the context
Yep.
as well.
And with them, it's a lot about medical care, right? So a lot of, I can call you a she if you're not, if you're a they, them, so. Okay, perfect. Okay, any other new business or anything for the committee? How was I have an update I need to ask you. How was the translation piece? How'd that come along? Good for the plan?
Yep, the strategic plan got translated. Took the professional interpreters about a week to do it. So it was a little slower than I initially thought, but I think it was overall reasonable. We are looking at, I think, getting it into Russian now. So that's the next piece.
Awesome.
The challenge for us will be, okay, once we do this, if we have a second, third, fourth version, which versions do we continue to translate?
Absolutely, yeah.
That'll be new ground for us. And this is, we've gone, the city's 40 years old, and we're just now kind of turning the corner on some of this stuff.
Do you have, sorry, I interrupted you. When you have the versions, do you have them at a different page on the website so you can measure clicks or visits?
I believe we do, yes.
So you can say how many clicks or visits so you can measure usage?
Yes, I believe so.
Perfect. Yes, Councilor Reed?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, and how much did that cost, just for the strategic, to get an idea of this? Because, there's been a lot of push for sort of translation into every language, and that's expensive. So how much was the strategic plan?
The strategic plan to get it into Spanish was $2,500.
2,500. How much did you say? 2,000.
Okay.
2,500.
Sure.
Just
That's
to get an
that's a good
idea
context.
of
Yep.
that, and then Russian will be probably the same or more because there's fewer Russian speakers.
If I were to throw out a guess, I would expect it to be more expensive, just because there's fewer resources available to do that kind of work.
Yeah, for sure.
And that return on investment question is really important one for this the language, and that's why I really appreciate that Tim had in his presentation some data on the different language speakers.
Yep.
And because it's one thing, and it's a hard thing to be able to say, well, somebody's not participating in civic ongoings because they don't they don't have it in their language. But that's we can get there eventually, perhaps. But to be able to do it all at once, we have to be careful with that because it's expensive.
Yeah, and I think there's also documents that you can think through about translating, right? So the business plan, we shouldn't use, and I said that the last time, that it's good enough. We can use Google Translator. The AI has gotten incredibly good on translating different languages that is acceptable. But for a business plan, because it's our imprint for the city, it made sense to have it professionally developed, right, and translated. But our website, I'm sure if we use a Google API, is pretty darn close, and with the other languages as well, and that costs nothing. So it's the piece as you develop the website, maybe build some of those capabilities in there, so that we know we've thought of people before they access the website, that there are languages available throughout, without having to break the bank. Yes, Tim?
Building on that, our website, one of the things that we're going to work on right now, it does have the ability to convert to different languages, but the little thing is at the bottom of the page, not the top. So we're going to look at moving that to the top so it's a little more visible. So,
Yeah,
so you
great.
can easily see that it's there.
Yeah, and closed captions, if there's things that need to be in closed captions, so that it's accessible to all.
Correct, yeah. All the city council meetings, K20, or I guess they're ambition pictures now, the folks that run the behind the scenes, do all the videotaping. When they upload it to YouTube, the back end's of YouTube, and it does have the closed caption.
Perfect.
The piece that we don't have is the real-time closed caption, and from what I understand, you actually need someone there typing, and that could be very prohibitively expensive.
And erroneously as well because of the real time. So that's the closed caption it's great. Okay. Any other items?
Well,
Updates? Yes.
just to build on that too, the questions come up about meetings like these that are audio recorded and not video recorded, and what options do we have with that? And so one of the things that we talked about is YouTube, and can we use YouTube to upload, the audio, because there are audio files on YouTube that we perhaps might, so we're looking at a lot of different options, but it is complicated, and as you say, some things you can afford to
Make a
have
mistake.
some errors in, whereas others are pretty important to.
One option, and I don't know the technology here, so again, it's computer, but if we had this meeting in person and via Zoom without adding it to others, if we recorded it, you could then have a video file, you have closed caption, you have all this, you could put it on YouTube. So again, I don't know that we want to have folks join in, because we've all had nightmares with Zoom phantoms joining meetings that they shouldn't be, but it is an option to record fairly cheap, or not, does the city have Zoom licenses?
We do, yes.
There you go. Sorry, I'm doing all the talking I'm not supposed to. Any updates?
Well, I think all my updates have already been talked about. I was going to talk about the work session and the inclusive language document. So that's all I had on my list.
Thank you.
And Tim, you mentioned that it does capture how many times they click on the Spanish versus the English. Is it also capturing where the clicks are coming from?
That I don't know. I can ask that question.
Because that would map as well, like if we need engagement, we know what areas are more engaged and how do we cater or how do we promote the rest. If it's all coming from one area, then we got to start shifting and we got to start looking at how do we move that around.
Could you look into that if we have data? I know that when we used Google, it was zip code and city, but it wasn't neighborhood. But even if it's zip code, if majority is 97303, we know, or 05, we know it's coming from Keizer. So, yes.
I will add, with the facelift to the website, we did turn on the counting mechanism. So we're not going to see a whole lot of data from, say, a year ago. But we will be
Okay.
able to see what's currently happening.
A lot of people are going through that with the abolishment of cookies, so we're not by ourselves, so. Any other updates? Carrie? Anthony? No? Also Reed? Anita? Okay. I took too long on the last meeting, so this one we're going to end 20 minutes short. Get ready for the March meeting. So if not, I'm calling this meeting to an end at 6:38.
You have Women's History Month, which is next month. Yeah. And do you, and which is, no, I don't
So
have.
do you like,
I
have any
No.
ideas or
Not
interest? Does that topic interest you?